Yes, if you will check in your table file, you will see that there are additional personnel items in terms of appointments, increases, decreases, and change in position and resignations. We also have an additional co-curricular overnight trip involving the volleyball team. And we also have a gift agreement from the Sibley PTO donating dollars to Sibley Elementary School for use of purchase of calendar magazines.
Okay, if there's no objection, we'll add those items to the agenda as we move forward. We have opportunity now for public comment, and this is a chance for members of the school district to address the board. We ask that you speak from the podium, that you state your name and address, the group you represent if you are here speaking on behalf of a group, and we also ask that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes. And I also want to remind the public that this is not an opportunity to engage in debate or to dialogue with the board, but really a listening opportunity for the board. So are there people here who wish to address the board? Anybody? Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name's Scott Quiring. I have...
I'm sorry, can you spell your last name?
Quiring.
Thank you.
I have 2 young kids in the elementary and also middle school, and just here to get a little insight and also provide some options for the school board for the YMCA that's being proposed on the high school grounds. I represent a commercial construction company and partner in that company, and we have abilities to provide options. And being a member of the school district, I would like to propose that AMCON, who is our company, provide some options for the school district other than just putting a YMCA on there. And I've been talking to other members of the community, and I think that there's options such as a field house and things like that we could look at for you guys. And we would be willing to do that free of charge just because I'm a member of the community and I want to look at options other than just getting into a YMCA. Again, it's free of charge, and we think it would be a better solution to look at things to help the community grow and focus on the school district's mission of educating the students. And that's my comment.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Anyone else who wishes to address the board? Thank you.
I'm Anthony Becker. I'm a resident of the school district and have had one child graduate from Northfield High and have one child who's currently at Northfield High. And Chair Nelson, Superintendent Richardson, and board members, thank you for this opportunity. I believe you probably have my letter that I emailed and know that I'm opposed to the construction of a YMCA on school district land. I'm not opposed to a YMCA. One of my earliest memories is lining up at the YMCA for my polio vaccine. I took swim classes there and archery classes there. I participated in those programs in my hometown. I think it's a great idea, but I don't think it should be built on taxpayer-owned land with what is implicitly a very large taxpayer subsidy. This is, and I think this is an important issue, the school district tries to foster diversity, and this is an explicitly Christian organization. As I said in my letter, I support Christian organizations through my tithes and offerings, but my tax dollars are supposed to be used for government to improve society in the functions that government does best, and not by subsidizing private groups that may, through their work, foster sectarian objectives. And the other issue here I think that we need to consider is that this is a very big decision. This is a decision that I actually feel should be put to the voters. This is too big a decision to be made by perhaps as few as 4 people here. And if it doesn't have the full support of the community, if it doesn't have the community behind it, It's going to cause a fair amount of division and acrimony, and it's not going to help the board move forward with the priorities that it really needs to move forward with. We face a very uncertain time with school funding. We don't know what the legislature is going to do. We don't know what the funding is going to be going forward. And I think this is, if you take this on, has the potential for being a very great distraction for the board's work in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak? If you're behind the podium, I can't see you. So, and I do want to remind the public that if you wish to make comment, this is your opportunity. We, unlike some other bodies in town, we don't take public comment as we move through our agenda. So this is your chance if you wish to address the board.
Tristan Cox. I spoke to the board previously about the YMCA issue. So I don't know how many more public comment opportunities there will be, but in the future I'll show up to them again. I'd like to reiterate what Anthony said about the why. This decision is too big for the school board to make. If it's going to be made, it needs to be put to a vote. And I would point out that 2 of the 7 school board members were not elected by the voters of the district. They were appointed, if that has any relevance to the decision. Mike Bertelson and Julie Pritchard.
Mike has been elected since his appointment. Mike served on the board for 6
So
years.
one is
for point of
just
clarity.
Julie's been? Okay, just Julie's been appointed. I don't know if it's necessary to reiterate the points I made previously, but this is not a good deal for the school district. There are way too many negatives compared to the positives, and I'm just going to keep my comments brief. You've gotten myriad letters from people on the no side of the issue, and I feel like I've done what I can to express that, so I'd just like to reiterate that I think it's not a good idea.
Thank you. Anybody else who wishes to address the board? And again, I don't know if anybody came in late, but with the school board, if you wish to make a comment, this is your chance. Anyone else? Oh, you're just moving up. Okay, anyone else who wishes to address the board? All right. I see no one coming forward, so we will close public comment and move on to approval of the minutes. Board members, you have in your packet the minutes of the regular meeting held on October 11th, and Noel, I want to thank you for chairing that meeting when I was called away. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Ellen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ann. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes of the regular meeting held on October 11th, 2010, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Those minutes are approved. On to announcements and recognitions. Dr. Richardson?
I have several this evening. First of all, our high school girls soccer team raised over $11,000 for its Lace for the Cure fundraiser. Team members sought donations to outfit all of the school's fall athletes with pink shoelaces to wear during their events throughout October. Donors could pay extra and get their own pink laces, a pink wristband, which are quite stylish, I have to say, although I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to wear them yet. Donors, again, fans were encouraged to wear that pink to the September 30th doubleheader boys and girls soccer games against Farmington. Team not only achieved its goal of outfitting of more than 550 Northfield athletes with pink laces, they also engaged Farmington athletes in the effort. The girls' September 30th game at home brought in 800 fans, a Northfield soccer game record. Since the event was such a success, there are plans to do this again next year. The team also sought donations at Carleton College homecoming football game, bringing the total amount of money raised to more than $11,500. The team is donating all of the money to the Susan G. Komen Foundation to support breast cancer research, education, and treatment. The Northfield High School girls soccer team is also the October recipient of the Healthy Community Initiative Making a Difference Award. The award celebrates those groups and individuals in the community who've made a positive influence on Northfield youth. The team was selected for its efforts to raise money for breast cancer research through their Race for the Cure event. I also would like to give a special thank you to Arlene Czar and the Prairie Partners of Cannon Valley, a small group of individuals that live in Northfield and the surrounding community. They obtained the $900 grant for the Northfield Garden Club that they applied for in August. With this money, they will do several things for the Greenville Park nature area. They will be building benches for the outdoor classroom space, repairing the sign on the west side, purchasing seed, flowers, and rare grasses for planting in the nature area. Again, thanks to this wonderful group of volunteers and all they've done for Greenville and their nature area. Also, an announcement and a reminder for board members, Bridgewater will be holding a bus driver appreciation breakfast this Thursday, October the 28th. That will be from 8:20 to 9 o'clock a.m. Again, we're so very appreciative of all of the work that our drivers and Benjamin Bus does in helping to make sure that students arrive and at school safely each and every day. So again, we very much thank them and wanted this opportunity, and again, Nancy and her staff especially wanted this opportunity to be able to recognize them and to give them a little appreciation breakfast to honor them. So invitation to all of our board members to attend that event, and would greatly appreciate it if you'd be available. Also again tonight, before this meeting, we did have the presentation of the Northwood to Northfield High School of the Environmental Protection Agency's Energy Star Award in recognition of the school building's indoor environmental performance increase. And again, thank you to especially our buildings and grounds staff, to Kevin Larson, our building and grounds director, for all the work that they've done in implementing that program in cooperation with Schools for Energy Efficiency. And again, we have, as was indicated tonight, we have several other buildings that are in line to also receive this award. And again, I think it's a very, very positive statement about the school district's efforts to be good stewards of our taxpayers' dollars in looking at ways to reduce the cost of energy and to increase the energy efficiency for all of our buildings. So again, thank you to everybody involved in that process.
Thank you.
Those are the announcements I have this evening.
Okay, anyone have anything to add? Nobody? Okay. We'll move on. Our first item, I guess our only item for discussion, is reports from the professional learning communities at the early childhood program in Greenville Park Elementary School. Dr. Richardson?
Okay, well, I see we have people from both of those groups here tonight. If you guys flip the coin or otherwise, it seems to me that the early childhood special education folks were here first. So it seems to me when you come first, you get a chance to present first. So Cheryl Hall, I believe you're going to be doing the intro, and then maybe other folks in your group going to be sharing in that presentation.
That's right.
Okay, very good.
And the handout is now going around.
Okay.
Thank you. And I believe the handout that you have is the presentation that Mary Jo Arndt, who is from Early Childhood Family Education, she will be presenting that information. I'm going to provide you with an overview of the PLC process at our early childhood programs at Longfellow and our progress over the last year since we were here reporting last year. As you know, our early childhood programs at Longfellow serve over 100 children. We have about 140 children in our hand-in-hand program, and including our early childhood special education programs, birth through 5 years old. Our staff, we have 14 licensed staff and 7 non-licensed staff that support our early childhood special ed program. We have 4 licensed school readiness staff as well, and then our ECFE staff, which is located out of the NCRC. Since last year, we have been working on our PLCs and establishing our essential learnings for all of our children in our early childhood programs. And our groups last year, for the first time, were really working toward gathering data on student performance and or the parents that they are working with and developing the programs for our youngest children. One of the groups, PLC groups, was our literacy group that really focused on the expressive language of 2-year-olds. And one of their initiatives was to put together packets or literacy packets that would go home, and these kits would include books and puppets and manipulatives for children to use with their parents. And the focus is to embed these kinds of activities into the routines of young children to develop language. And their overall goal was to develop that language of the 2-year-olds. However, as they went through this process, they discovered that one of the barriers is working with the families to encourage them to use those materials on a frequent basis in those routines. They did see growth in the early childhood language developed in each of the 2-year-olds. However, the data that they received through questionnaires with parents did not indicate that parents really use those literacy packets on a daily basis or on a routine basis. So that was some interesting information for them. And that was, they used those literacy packets for about 3 to 4 months by the time they had the packets put together. So they did not have a lot of data, and they're continuing to use that this year. Another group focused on motor development of our young children in our preschool, our hand-in-hand preschool. They met their goal by January. So that was, of all the students, met their goal, their motor goal, which was they focused on catching a ball, a bounce ball. In their development of their PLC, further for the year, they looked at the fine and gross motor skills, developed a checklist for the essential learnings that were identified earlier the previous year. And then they have now decided to use that checklist throughout the whole program and are moving forward to using that data this year, and came up with a recommendation that that they should be embedding more physical activity, such as the SMART program, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, into all of the classrooms. Another group worked on summative data. Now, most of the PLCs are talking about formative data, but because of our early childhood programs, we don't have the type of data that our elementary, middle school, and high school classrooms have, so we have to develop our own summative data. So one of the groups focused on standardizing the process and procedures for giving assessments to all of our students across all of our programs in the early childhood programs. And that included our special education only programs as well. As you know, Longfellow is a unique building and a unique program, and part of the PLCs that we also encompass are our school nurse and our school social worker. Our school nurse, as you probably are aware, carried out last year as part of her PLC the plan and response for the H1N1, collaborated with Marnie Thompson on truancy, and produced classroom go kits and evacuation plans, cardiac screening, and health screening. Our school social worker worked on developing resource packets and information to share with families on an ongoing basis for outreach resources such as mental health, connecting families with other programs for like the food shelf and things like that. Now for this year, since it's so early in the year, there isn't a whole lot more to update you on, except for this year, the nurses were very excited. They are now a PLC. All the school nurses, school-wide, have come together and now have time to be a PLC. And they are thrilled, as I'm quoting. They're thrilled to be working together. And their goal this year is to better the district coordination of health services, making certain that all buildings are addressing issues in the same format. The social emotional, there's another group that is working on the social emotional development of all of our young children. Their SMART goal is focusing on creating a social emotional curriculum as part of their positive behavior support plan. This is a program-wide system approach to working with children and their behavior. This is also something that they're working on with the Head Start program, as well as our hand-in-hand preschool. They have asked for professional development funds for their group to attend the TAXI, which is the Technical Assistance Center on Social Emotional Intervention for Young Children, training for creative and positive behavioral supports for young children. The last group is working on the SMART program, which stands for Stimulating Maturity Through Accelerated Reading Training. This curriculum will provide them with the resources to implement the strategies of having very hands-on activities that will help promote learning in the classrooms. This SMART program will be used throughout all of the hand-in-hand programs. You might be familiar that the SMART program is also used in our elementary buildings as well. In many of the classrooms, there's regular ed teachers as well as special education teachers who are trained in providing that kind of curriculum for students to support their learning through a multimodal kind of approach. And now Mary Jo Arndt is going to provide you with an overview of what early childhood family education is doing under our umbrella. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to come and speak tonight. Our PLC group is made up of 3 parent educators, Mary Loban, Betsy Menemy, and myself, and our 3 early childhood teachers, Julia Daly, Heather Carlin, and Flavia Burke. We've been very excited this year with the process our PLC group has come up with. We've worked with Longfellow in establishing early childhood essential learnings for those years, and then realized our students are actually the parents. And the state really doesn't have too much of a curriculum, or we don't have any standards or anything for parents to look at. So our job this past year has been to develop a curriculum for parent education. The one we came up with, the state did in 2008. Betty Cook and some other early childhood education people came up with a parent education core curriculum. Features the 5 domains: parent development, parent-child relationship, early childhood development, family development, culture, and community. In all, there's actually 64 essential elements that we came up with, and this is on the back side of that one handout. This is one page of 3 with the other domains. What we decided, they had indicators that were listed as components that we decided these are our essential learnings. Transition to role for parent. How are they learning to cope when that new baby comes along? So we put that in our baby and me class. We also then kind of looked what other transitions happen along the way, the multiple parent roles. So we looked at putting these essential elements throughout our series of classes. And as you can see, we have a range of classes from birth to 5. And we also included our outreach programs of lunch and learning, teen parent, and the family school to encourage more consistency in what we're offering our parents. In theory, we looked at offering these essential learnings at least twice during the course of birth to 5, hoping that parents come in when their child's born and stay through their 5th birthday. In reality, that's not the case. So we looked at putting those into our different areas. So we were making sure that all domains were covered. Then this is an example of one of the classes, the busybodies, the domain became parent development, the role, learning multiple parental roles. The indicators that the state came up with, we kind of took those as our standards. And so it states the parents support the children's development when they do these different indicators. That's what the state had kind of mapped out for us. Then we decided, depending on what age group we put it in, we came up with the objectives for what we thought parents would need to know and what we would want them to be able to do, and say learning multiple parental roles for that. That class is offered in multiple parental roles. We do in busybodies, and then we also do again in 3s and 4s. So the objectives for the 3s and 4s are a level up. We're expecting more from the parents at that point because they're experienced, they've been doing parenting for a little while, and so we're upping the challenge for them. The other part we are looking at is trying to integrate our parent-child time and the children's portion with our parent education, because we are a two-part program. If you're not familiar with our structure, we start out with a parent-child time of about half hour, 45 minutes, and then the parents split and come in and talk with the parent educator, and the children stay with the early childhood teacher. We were looking to try to coordinate what was happening in the early childhood room with what we were talking about in the parent room. And this is like our daily lesson or a weekly lesson that we would come up with. And if you can see at the bottom, we've got possible early childhood classroom links that we work on trying to coordinate what's happening so it makes sense to the parents. So during circle time, when Julia is doing a certain song or rhythm, I can then relate that to the parents. What did the child learn from this? How can we carry out that learning process at home? The SMART goal was a real challenge for us. First of all, when you come to the assessments about trying to assess parents, we all would kind of like to do that, but there really isn't a way that we can without maybe upsetting a few people. So we looked at our learnings, and we chose one that we thought would work across the board for all our classes. And we decided, developing children's listening skills is so vital to the language and literacy development. That's the one we chose. We had, starting point someplace for that. So we basically came up with that, realizing that the parent self-reflection tool is the only way we're going to be able to say, okay, are we making this or not? Do we have an impact? This is the tool we came up with for our parent self-assessment and the developing children's listening skills. The know and do comes from the indicators that the state had put down the parents should do. The K is we asked the parents before we did this lesson, what do you know about developing your child's listening skills? But we also want the parents doing those activities and those behaviors. So we added the D to that know and do. Because basically it's a form of the KWL format. So we had them check what they knew, what they did, because sometimes we all know we do things without knowing why we're really doing them. And sometimes we know we should be doing them, but that's not our comfort zone, like singing with the child, so they don't always do that. We asked anything else they wanted to learn that wasn't from there. We're in the process the last 2 weeks now. We've been working on this lesson. So we haven't exactly assessed what we needed to know and to find out. What we did find is that it's pretty difficult with this. We were almost too finite in our listening skills because it falls under the language literacy, that we should have gone broader, because some of these listening ones, they work really well with our younger age children and the parents, but by the time you get to time before kindergarten, some of these are just not applicable. So we would have been better off looking more at the emergent reading, emergent writing skills for that. One of the real key benefits of the PLC time is with our integrated lesson planning. We've been able to have time for the parent educator and the early childhood teacher to meet so we can really coordinate. I know Hannah has stopped in a couple of times when we've been working. It was exciting with this listening skill that we were working on because we could really touch base with what's going on in circle time and make that connection to the parents and into the classroom. So we're being more intentional about what we're teaching and making it more of a cohesive program. And that's all I have, unless somebody has some questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody have any questions? Julie?
First of all, thank you. I mean, it's really great to see that the PLC model is benefiting even our youngest children. What I'm wondering is, what is our current ECFE enrollment?
That I didn't ask for Mary.
I'm just curious the numbers, because we had talked, Cheryl mentioned 100 students. I just wondered what the ECFE.
I can maybe step in.
Okay.
Are we on? Let's go on. I can't give you exact numbers for enrollment this fall, but I do know that we did not cancel one class this fall. And typically we run about 80% of what we offer, and that's a good standard. I believe I could very quickly tomorrow send board members a copy of the report that we submit to the state every year, which is how many families do we serve and how many children versus parents come to the program. But we're certainly in the area of hundreds. And the early childhood family ed levy is based on a birth to 5 count estimate of roughly 1,700 children. So I could put that information together for you and get you exact numbers from last year. But we are seeing an increase in participation right now.
What we have found is last year it was like our 3s and 4 classes were really full and we were trying to find everybody fill spots. This year it was the 2s overloaded and we didn't really have enough 2s. So we ended up moving some. We had a couple of 3s and 4s, multi-age classes, so we were able to accommodate people that wanted to get into the program. But it's one of those, Mary always tries to figure out, okay, who's moving up, who's coming, and it just always seems to manage to hit the wrong group on that time. But we do try to, that's what, we actually have 2 multi-age classes. 2 3s and 4s. We're not actually offering any straight 3-year-old classes this year, just to try to accommodate that 2 to 3 range that was a little overloaded.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? I think it's really interesting to hear about the challenge of developing a data collection tool for this student population. And we're relying on parents, some of whom may not be familiar with the kind of data collection that schools typically do.
Right.
Hard to test a 2-year-old, although I guess you do try to do some kind of assessment of
well, and the early childhood teachers do take an assessment what the children are doing, but as far as ECFE, we're focused, our students is the parent, and looking to see what the parent is doing with the child. That will enhance the child's ability to be successful in school. Besides the assessment tool, we do our observations, what we're noticing, how parents are interacting with their child during parent-child time.
Very interesting. Anybody else? Anything? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Cheryl. Okay, Greenville Park.
Thank you. Good evening. Really happy to have a captive audience where I can brag a little bit about my teachers and students. So this is a great opportunity. On behalf of, thank you. On behalf of my children at Greenville Park and our families and teachers, I just want to say thank you very much the school board and to Dr. Richardson. In fact, Dr. Richardson would probably tell you that I'm not prone to flattery. In fact, my greatest asset and liability is probably that I'm too direct. So I just want to be direct this evening and say, were it not for your wisdom and your vision and your values and your mission and your goals as a school board and as a superintendent, you wouldn't have the opportunity to see this success here today. And often we talk about the teachers and how they're the engines that drive school improvement, and we oftentimes forget to remember that it's leadership too that provides this kind of result that you're about to see in our DVD today. So I just want to start out by saying thank you very much. The PLCs at Greenbelt Park last year in the DVD that we showed you showed a professional learning community where in the DVD we showed you the teachers planning and then where the implementation looked like in the classroom with the students, and then teachers planning and that discussion and what that looked like in the classroom. And so you already know that that's the process. And so this DVD that I created for Greenbelt Park, and it was our 5th grade team actually that participated in this DVD, is primarily going to give you visuals of children. Because one of the things that I think is so important to communicate about professional learning communities and the benefits of what we're doing in Northfield Public Schools is that the beneficiaries of this practice are students and their families. And so I wanted to create that visual for you today and really highlight the kids. What you will see here today is an implementation of mathematical reasoning. That's the essential learning that our 5th grade team has established as being the important piece that students need to know. If they're going to be successful in math, they need to be able to mathematically reason through problems. And mathematics and science are really what account for a lot of our achievements and even society. And we want to make sure that kids can reason and critically think. So that's the essential learning that you'll see here today. We've got a SMART goal for that. You'll see that in the DVD. And we measure all along the way whether or not our students are actually accomplishing that in a formative assessment. And one of the things that we're very serious about in Greenville Park is that we do formatively check all along the way whether or not our students are accomplishing that essential learning, so that it's not a fall, winter, spring, and we wind up in the winter. Whoops, well, they didn't get it. Well, we just lost 12 weeks if they didn't get it. And we're formatively checking all along the way. You'll see that here. But the thing that I really want you to notice, and my teachers will comment for you at the end if you have questions, is that they are implementing a strategy for problem solving that any student can have access to. Not just students who are proficient, not just students who are middle of the road, but all students that can have access to and can practice and learn how to develop at their instructional level. The other piece that you're going to see here today is, it's kind of a sidebar conversation throughout this, and my teachers can address it if you have more questions about it, is that we're very serious about the essential learning, but we're also serious about the opportunity for children to be taught mathematics and reading as well, but this is just about mathematics today, at their instructional level, because if they are not taught at their instructional level, they cannot access the concepts. And we can teach grade level curriculum to students who are below grade level till we're blue in the face, but they're not going to get it unless we're giving them access at their level. And that's what you're going to see here today. So without any further conversation from me, my technology wizard, Mr. Hillman, and I want to say thank you to Matt for giving me all the neat technology to do this and help supporting me in that, and his team helped support me in this. And my teachers will field your questions afterwards, okay? It's 13 minutes.
I think I turned it off.
25 seconds.
And what you will need to do is grab a marker, just like the one we use for our whiteboards, a white paper, purple paper, green paper, a Kleenex, and then this memory fifth grade.
We talked about, and you might have talked about it in fourth grade, math problem-solving strategies. Okay, in fifth grade, we even put on everybody's desk, and we may do this again, a little wheel that has all the strategies on it. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to, within the next couple weeks, we're going to talk about each one of these strategies. And then we're going to be doing some problems, some word problems, where we can use that strategy to help us figure out the problem. Okay. Now, the strategy we're going to use today is make a picture. Okay. Let's get five of you to come up here. Colin, Ben, Nicole, Armando, and Casey. Will you come up here, please? And you guys together tell us what we will be able to do at the end of this lesson, right?
We will be able to use the solving number stories and problem number stories.
So we will be able to use the problem number story steps. How many? Show with your fingers. 4. Good. To solve a number story. And
we will know you do this when you solve your problem using all 4 steps.
yes, using all 4 steps. Let's do roller coaster one. Ready? Ready? Steps are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 1. What do you want to find out? And what information do you know? So we're going to be able to manipulate and circle and underline all the information that you already know. And we can talk
I'd
about
like you to practice and use your problem-solving steps to complete this problem. This problem. And the strategy I'd like you to use is draw a picture. Because that's the strategy we just practiced. Okay?
So how are you going to answer that? In this particular problem, how do I know that the answer of 9 makes Okay. And then you would write that down, right? I checked it by taking 9 and dividing it by 3. Okay, that's another way. Is there another way to? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you together with a partner. And you and your partner are going to work on a problem. Take a picture. So you and your partner can kind of talk about, what kind of picture. Do you and your partner have to have the same picture? No. No, you can have different pictures. And when it says make a picture, are you like drawing like all kinds of detail and all kinds of beautiful things in the scenery? I like that you I'm having trouble. Like, no, it's fine. Can you tell me about it? Yeah.
So what do the lines mean?
Like, they're just kind of connected with the buttons.
Okay.
More buttons.
Okay, so that connection could be an addition sign? Like you're adding all of the buttons together?
Right here. Okay, so we see about 5, 6 of you who did it like Zoe. 5, 6 of you who did something different. Exactly. How awesome is this? We have different ways to solve the problem, right? And making a picture is different.
Divide by 4 friends that equal 8. Draw a picture.
Oh, okay.
Fit in your notebook.
Oh, okay. Because 30,000 people visit every day and we
On that yellow problem solving sheet in your notebook.
okay, and so have to answer
Answer
that.
those questions that we went through. So you're going to, what do you want to find out?
Pretty hard to figure out how to draw a picture because it's a simple problem. The simpler it is, the harder it is how to figure out like how to explain your work. But each of the circles represents one day, and then every person represents 110,000 people.
Okay.
And then if you add all the people together.
Picture, make a picture. Yeah. These things represent the dams and Hoover Dam, and how many people go to it. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm writing how much everybody goes to it each day.
Yeah, that's collecting energy. Do you know what it also does? It also stops water from going over. Yeah.
Reviewing the steps. Okay, you did this last. We're reviewing. It's going to be easier. And you know what? Once you get these steps down, the challenging questions come. Okay? So you're going to get those challenging questions later. So make sure you go through your thought process and go through the 4 steps. Okay? Keep going. Check in with Mr. Tucker.
You're multiplying, and now we have to double check our answer. We're gonna double check it with plus.
I'm gonna double check
Plusing is easier than multiplying and but they're almost the same.
Okay, say that again.
They're multiplying is almost the same as adding, but adding is a lot easier. 0. 3 times 7.
That's what we need for our problem. And then x equals 10,000 people. And so we have the days of the week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And each day of the week, about 30,000 people come. So that's 3 x's.
One person equals 30,000 people, and so each day of the week, 30,000 people come. So I choose 7 people.
What does each person represent then?
300. No, 3 each day. 30,000. It goes up like this does.
So did it help to see the dam on the computer?
Yeah.
So you knew what that was and what it did, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Step number 4 instead of step number 3. This is step number 3, and I wrote down. We got our answer by drawing a picture of a dam, and we wrote 30,000 by it to represent how many people come to the dam.
And so what is the complete answer? What's the complete answer in a complete sentence?
The answer we got is 210,000 people.
What is the 210,000 people represent?
How many people come to each day?
Where? That's what you need.
And speaker problem, that's the reason mark up for life is. Whatever it's time to do.
comment on the gecko.
Yeah, who is the guy?
That's our PTO president. And where I had her dancing the song in between, everywhere I went to videotape the kids, they followed me, and I had to stop with that group. So I thought they were an integral part of that whole videotaping. So what we're hoping you walked away with was that professional learning communities are good for all students. These aren't just initiatives that we put forth for specific students. These are good for all students, and we're hoping that communicated that. So if you have questions, I've got my 5th grade team here, -1. Like they had
I find this just really impressive. 85% of 5th graders made more than a year's growth on the math test last year, and you've set a goal of 100% this year, which is ambitious.
I think our school improvement plan still needs to be written on the math goal, but yeah, I think we're at 85, so
yeah,
gotta go up.
That's bad.
Gotta go up. You know, the piece that I didn't talk about, and I will talk about when we do. When you approve the AYP plan that I've written for Dr. Richardson and the board and our school improvement plan, I'll really get into the data. But here's one of the other pieces. You know, since the implementation of our PLCs, full implementation last year, one of the other noteworthy pieces of data at Greenbelt Park is that we had 3 kids in MathQuest in 3rd grade, and we went into double digits in 4th grade. So in other words, we had more students go from 3rd to 4th grade into the 98th percentile, which is one of the requirements to get into the MathQuest program. And it really has to do with the level of commitment that my teachers have and your vision in helping them with that to achieve at all levels. And so that's another piece. And I'll talk more about the data later on. But I'm sure you got questions from my teachers, so I'm going to call them up.
Okay. Ann Maple.
Yes, I have a question for the teachers. How do you go about communicating with the parents about your SMART goal? And what do they know at home about what's going on in the classroom?
Well, one of the goals we have this year, and I think it's across all of Greenville Park, is at conferences when every parent comes in to meet with their child, also using that as an opportunity to talk about our PLC and our SMART goals so that the parents know what's going on in the classroom, and so then they can maybe help support that at home as well.
I'd like to note that I do believe Greenville has 98% of parents, 1 or 2 parents show up at our conferences, so that's a great rate. So it's a great time to talk to our parents about that. We also do a monthly newsletter that Mr. Kraft writes along with other people from the school. And that newsletter talks about our SMART goals and focuses on each grade level on a different month. So that's another way we do that, that we communicate with them. And also we do have weekly or monthly newsletters that go home, sometimes in Spanish and also English, to communicate that with parents.
And last year when we started the flexible grouping, we sent out a letter explaining everything to the parents.
Ella?
So I was just curious, in that we started the flexible grouping last year, and some of the things you did were the math class where you integrated and the Compañeros students weren't separated, and if that's still working and you're able to get some more of that contemporary Compañeros integration.
Yes, we're continuing with that this year, and so it looks pretty similar to how it looked last year. So that's been the nice thing too, is to integrate the Compañeros students in with the contemporary students as far as that goes, in order to meet our PLC goal as a collective team.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our first item for individual action is consideration of the YMCA facilities proposal. And just want to review what we've done, where we've been as we've been considering this proposal. As you know, at the June 14th school board meeting, representatives of the YMCA presented the district with a proposal to locate a YMCA facility on the Northfield High School site. Y representatives indicated that locating and operating their private nonprofit facility on high school property was their preferred choice, and that the Y believed this location would benefit the school district and the greater Northfield community. The board held 2 work sessions on July 29th and September 22nd on this proposal. We gathered an awful lot of information from district administrators and our facilities consultants, as well as additional information from the YMCA. And then on October 7th, we held an open house to gather additional public feedback on whether the collaboration would be mutually beneficial for the schools and the Y, as well as enhance opportunities for the community. And in your packet, board members, we do have the summary document that was distributed at the open house meeting. I would like to thank the administration and ICS Consulting and the Y for their diligence in gathering and providing a great deal of information for the school board to consider as we evaluated this unusual proposal. I especially want to thank members of the community who took time to attend the open house, to email us, to write us letters, to call us on the phone, or to stop us walking down the street to share their thoughts on the issue. But here we are, and the time has come for this board to decide whether we want to direct administration to enter into any kind of formal negotiations to pursue this opportunity with the Y. If we wish to do so, we would need a motion directing the administration to enter into formal negotiations with the YMCA regarding a facility on the Northfield High School property. And I just ask the board, is anyone prepared to make such a motion? Mike is.
So I guess I'll submit this way, and I think I made enough for, no, I have one. I made extra 2 for the big overhang.
Maybe read this.
Read it while
so
it goes out.
have...
People are going out, but you can. So first, I think the resolution will read this. The resolution for the Northfield School District to agree to proceed into negotiations with the Northfield YMCA regarding the construction of a building that through a joint use agreement will be built and operated by the Northfield YMCA. The district criteria for these negotiations will include, but not be limited to, the following. 1, the agreement provides additional needed facility space to the school district without added taxes for construction or operations. The Y must have a realistic business plan to cover all operational costs, as well as a plan for a scheduled facility renewal. 2, the partnership will be based on a transparent contract providing clarity for each organization's rights and obligations, including decision-making, uses, and scheduling. 3, the building will be transferred to the ownership of the school district in accordance with state statutes. 4, the building will be built to a construction standard consistent with the Northfield School District standards. 5, the YMCA would build a facility based on actual pledges and a financial plan that assumes no long-term debt at the time of transfer. Specific financial objectives will be determined for each stage of the design to proceed. A significant percentage of the capital campaign dollars must be either in hand or legally committed for transfer prior to any construction beginning. And a completed joint use agreement must be presented to the board for the review and approval prior to any design for YM School District property. The superintendent will review the proposed agreement with the district finance advisory committee prior to the review of the board.
This is your motion.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ellen. Okay, let's open it up for discussion.
Maybe I'll start and then we'll take whatever people's thoughts on it. You know, I think we've had a long discussion on the topic, as Carrie outlined, and I would second or reinforce the point that I think community has certainly weighed in on this in a significant way as well. I'm sure I didn't get to everyone's phone call, letter, or email. Spent more than a few hours trying to get to as many of them as I could and remember where all the material was. And so I thank people, the community, for a really good discussion and thought on it. I think it's important to remind us what we're deciding. We're not deciding whether there would be a Y or not a Y. The Y will get to decide whether it's a Y or not a Y in town. We're not deciding whether they would pay property taxes or not. They, as a nonprofit, would not be paying property taxes regardless of where they would settle. So this is not an issue of that. This decision at this point is not whether they would even build or not, but it's a decision about whether we think there's enough merit to the conversation to continue the negotiations. There's lots of points on this to make, but I want to really focus a few comments on one, because especially the last series of emails I was been responding to this weekend, folk seem to have a great focus on whether we are accomplishing or even having this discussion, or even focusing on our job, whether this is a distraction, we should get it behind us, and get back to focusing on what our job is. So I did go back to our school district's beliefs and strategies mission. And I just want to read two of them. One of the beliefs was the shared responsibility, that we believe that education is a collective responsibility of our students, families, schools, and communities. And second, our strategy, communications and partnerships. We will build and strengthen bridges of open communication and engage staff, students, families, and communities as effective partners in education. I really do believe one of the, in a public organization, public as ours, it's a lot easier to say no to something than yes. That's just, I think, a fundamental component. And it's harder to build something up. Whether it should be built or not, if there's valid arguments, I think, in both directions about it. But I do believe that more than, certainly in all the areas, especially in education, it does take a community to be part of the educational process. And it's not, the school district exists as a separate organization, but we exist within a community. We exist within lots of organizations that are all collectively make up Northfield and the greater Northfield School District, which certainly includes communities outside of Northfield. And if our role is to help certainly build that, make sure we have base core educational programs, we certainly have to think about how the best way to expand that is. And much of that happens not just in the specific classrooms, but in extracurricular activities as well, and the service learning programs that we do in partnership with other organizations in town, that the school district in the past has negotiated and been part of partnerships with the NCRC, and that we are continuing to look at, even that we've talked about potentially partnerships with the city about how can we share services in a way that help mitigate overall property taxes for the city overall. And in this time of reduced resources, and we see that coming in a big way, I think we have to look to partnerships as part of our mission. Now, doing so means certain kinds of compromises, and those will means not everybody gets everything just for us, but in the end, everything that we have belongs to the greater community as well. And I think we need to look for partnerships. Now, this partnership is not one we started out, went out creating to seek. It kind of showed up on our doorstep. And so I think we've taken the extra time to review it. But it is one that I think our research has shown as a proven model for public-private partnerships, not just here, but it's been in other states across the country and other schools in the state as well. We've seen how those joint use partnerships can work, and often case have worked where the school district or the city has put up their own money in addition to it. In this case, we're not being asked to do that. But I think it is a partnership situation. And whether we proceed with this one or this particular opportunity or not, and I look forward to the rest of the debate and discussion, I think for me, it is a signal of, in Northfield, with fewer resources, we have to work across other organizations to look for opportunities where we can solve more than one problem at a time. I just don't think we can afford to solve only one thing at a time, whether it's the library or the community centers or an ice arena or the swimming pool. And I think too often our community isn't set solutions for one thing separate from another and to the exclusion of trying to make them work together. So in that spirit, I think it's worth furthering the negotiation. And that's it.
Thanks, Mike. Anyone else want to jump in here?
Just a question for clarification. Where, if we do move forward on the shared use agreement, where is the money coming from? Did we get any in-kind gift from the Y or any individual to cover the legal expenses to look at that? Or, I mean, I would like to somehow save the district from legal expenses. I'm just wondering if we have a budget for that or talked about that. Chris or anybody?
At this point, in terms of if we were to go forward right now, we would go into the current budget that we have for legal expenses. We do have a dollar amount set aside each year to do that. This is likely from the information we already shared with you, would be in the $5,000 to $10,000 range would be the cost of that particular negotiations, plus the amount of time that myself, the Director of Business Services, and other folks would be involved in that work. Again, that would be at your pleasure to determine if that's the way that you would wish to have our time used.
Well, in any type of proposal like this, regardless if it's a Y or whatever it is, if we're entering to the next stage, I would like to see some kind of fee base so it's just not out of our general budget, if that's possible to consider.
Are you offering an amendment, or are you just suggesting that those are things we'd want to consider as part of the agreement if we did move forward with the agreement?
Yeah, I guess I'd offer that as a where that. I mean, I'd like to just say, if that were me and if I was an organization, I would probably even donate the money to the district to pay for your attorney's fees just to make the decision.
Are you suggesting that this resolution, you want to amend this resolution, friendly amendment, that it include a requirement that the Y pay our attorney's fees?
Yeah, I'll do that.
So we have a motion to amend the resolution provided by Mike. I guess we add a number 6 that suggests that the YMCA would pay all attorney's fees associated with the negotiations. Is there a second to that amendment? Is there a second to the amendment? Okay, amendment fails for lack of a second. Any further discussion on the substance of the resolution? Ellen? Sure.
So I'd like to thank the community too for the overwhelming, and sometimes overwhelming, but I'm happy to see everybody engaged. It was good to get opinions and thoughts on all sides of the issue, and history that maybe, even being here 20 years, I didn't necessarily know of different partnerships in the community, so it's very valuable to get people's opinions throughout this process. So what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about how I went about thinking through this. I see that a lot of us are putting out our beliefs and strategies. So Carrie's been saying that for quite some time. So that was something that I did. And like Mike was looking at some of the learning beliefs, learning environment beliefs, strategies about stewardship and community partnerships. Noel had shared a tally he was doing with positive and negatives. I used a similar technique. I used a SWOT analysis. So not just thinking positive, negative, but strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and taking all the input and all the information we had. And then the other thing I used as a technique I use as an evaluator is a modeling process where you look not just at the immediate effects, but you think further than that for when you're evaluating a partnership. As well, you look at broader impacts. You can think of that as a ripple effect. It might be a little easier to understand. So those were some of the things that I took into consideration. I'd just like to make 4 points. One, I wanted to address what's in front of us, the immediate tangible strengths that I think ICS administration demonstrated that there would be, the proposed is a 45,000 square foot building at no cost to the district, and I think that's part of the resolution, that it would be at no cost. Would provide flexible space for Phi-Ed, adaptive Phi-Ed, health class, and co-curricular activities. And if we look at our beliefs and strategies, I think that does fit within what we as a board decide upon, is this sort of learning environment, and Phi-Ed and health classes and co-curricular are definitely part of that. The building would be an asset and it would be accessed and used by the district's children throughout the day. So that's the first point, the tangible strength. So what I looked at in thinking about broader impacts and a little beyond, some of the input we got was a lot of the what-ifs. And the what-ifs, we tended to get more of the what-ifs in the negative side, so I tried to think of what-ifs in the positive side, because that's part of what you do when you think of a SWOT analysis. And so I went out and I was looking at the YMCA websites. I know many of us did, trying to get a sense of what, beyond their mission, and looking at a lot of the large metropolitan areas, what do they do, what are they all about. And one of the things that I found was really interesting was that they have programs aimed at middle school and high school age students aimed at fostering critical thinking, civic engagement, and service learning. And if we went forward with this partnership, and I think even if we don't, I would really be interested in looking at how we could collaborate on these areas. From my experience, universities and two-year colleges are instituting efforts to support these initiatives. And once again, looking at our mission, our strategies, these are areas of learning that I think we could really benefit from. So that's kind of a what if, more on the positive side. So the third point I'd like to talk about is the private-public piece. And that's kind of tough. I can understand people's philosophies. Like Mike, I share the concern that we need to think more about partnerships. And we need to think of them more as a strength rather than a threat. I see our funding dwindling. I see the tax base not being able to provide everything we would want. And even if this isn't the partnership that we would like, I think we're going to have to open ourselves up. I think we're going to have to think broader. What I liked about this one is that it fit what I thought would be things that our students could have access to that would fit within some advantages in learning and learning environments. So it seemed there was a nice fit. I also liked that the leadership would be local people that we know and would be autonomous. In my position, I've worked the last 7 years basically on soft money, often from private, sometimes federal foundation grants where the person is way out there and it's harder to work. So I think if we're thinking about partnerships in the future, partnerships that have that sort of local leadership, I think would be of value. So I think what I saw was a value was collaboration, bringing something to our students that we can't do. We currently don't have the base to do that. And I think if you look at public universities, metropolitan school districts, whether they be the Y or Cargill or Target, whether you're going corporate or you're going nonprofit, those are the sorts of things that are happening across the country. The last piece I wanted to bring up was some of the concern about competing with community ed. And I think the reality is, in the next year, is our community ed dollars are really, at stake at the legislature. I don't know where that's going to go. And I think even if we don't move forward with this, I would like to see a stronger partnership with the Y, because I don't know what we're going to be able to continue to offer here, and I want to have that broad access to our students of the programs that Hannah's been having. And I'd like to make sure we're not having duplication of services. So I saw this as, rather than a threat, as more of a, gee, I'm not sure what's going down the pike, and it's pretty serious, and this might be an opportunity so that we don't lose that. Because once you start losing the programs, it's hard to bring them back. So those are the 4 points I wanted to make, and why, and how I looked at the data that we had, and how I came up to thinking that this was something that I thought we should go forward for the next steps. But I thought Mike brought it up, the funds in hand. I think the safety of the students in the facility would be another thing. I don't know that we need to have it as an amendment, and the last piece was the separation of church and state. And I think we would have to have that as part of the shared use agreement. I think we can look at government precedents. The Armed Services Y is part of, have a formal relationship with the Defense Department for a very long time. So there is some government precedent that we can look to in terms of language. But I think that would also have to be part of it. So that's it.
And I just want to be clear, Ellen, you're not suggesting to amend.
No, as I said, I don't think we need to amend it, but if we went forward, I think there would be other things that would have to be considered.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay. Anyone else want to weigh in here? Julie.
Well, I'll have to start again, and as Mike and Ellen did, as well as just to thank the community for weighing in on the issue. And I heard from many who really weighed in on both sides of the issue, and I want you to really thank everyone for being involved and engaged in the issues facing our district. And I also concur with Ellen and Mike that we do in these times need to look at innovative approaches and partnerships that can benefit the school district. But I believe this proposal falls short. My greatest concern is this partnership would not significantly enhance the academic mission of the school. I agree that recreational activities do benefit our students, but as a school district, it's not primary to our core mission. The school is landlocked, and the Y building would take away valuable public green space. Our students will have some, but really limited access to the Y facility. I also think it's important to talk about when this proposal did come to us, and at that time there was no current or even long-term plans for the addition to a high school. We can continue to function adequately in the current footprint of the existing building. This is a solution to something that really is not a pressing need. I feel that someday, if and when the time comes, we could look to build exactly what we would need to solve specific space issues. Finally, I truly believe the Northfield Wide has proven to be a great asset to our community, and they will continue to provide many opportunities for our kids. And to me, this is not a vote for or against the Y, but I believe it's my responsibility to make decisions that I believe are in the best interest of the district. And first and foremost, this decision must be based on whether this partnership will help to provide the best education possible for our students.
Thanks. Anybody else want to jump in? Anne?
Along with thanking the community for being involved, one of the things that I think is really important, or one person to thank, and hard work in gathering the information for us, is Dr. Richardson. And I want to start with that because we gave him so many facts about what kind of information we needed, and he did it with great speed, great efficiency, and with great neutrality. And I found that really, really important because I'm not neutral on this issue at all. And from the very beginning, the idea of our public school with public tax dollars having such a bound relationship with a private entity that is in its mission statement talks about Christian values, promoting Christian values. That's been a non-starter for me since the beginning, because I have this this idea that public schools are public, and a YMCA building might mean to one or two kids, oh, but I'm not Christian, maybe I shouldn't go in there. And right then, it affects the part of our mission statement that has to do with diversity. And actually, Tony Becker, you said in your letter to us better than I've been able to articulate that idea of celebrating and embracing diversity. So that's a non-starter for me. It's true that the collaboration with the Y could go on in more of a soft way, helping with programs, as Ellen has mentioned and Julie has mentioned. But to be in a long-term relationship that involves a building on public land for a private entity, I just can't go there. The benefits that some added PE and health space do not mitigate for me the risk of tying up administrators' time to write contracts to make sure that diversity is honored and we have to have space arrangements made. That's a lot of time for our administrators who at this time, as we've all been talking about, have to focus on meeting academic standards, preparing for deep budget cuts, narrowing the achievement gap, and addressing other educational issues in our district. That's where the focus of the school district should be, and I think that's where we should be putting our attention. If we have to be constantly monitoring our and our use agreements, I see that as a distraction. So you might not, I do think that's a danger. So that's where I'm falling right now, and I feel very strongly about the separation of public and private church and state issues that may be real or even just perceived by our students and by community.
Thanks, Ann. Anybody else? No?
When I heard of the collaborative opportunity offered in Northfield Public Schools by the YMCA, it struck me that it was a issue to be decided by the community, not just by the school district board of education. I see it mostly as a collaborative issue and not a weighty academic educational issue. During the past several months, strong and compelling reasons have been presented for and against the collaboration. In my memory, a few issues have generated so much response from the community. And I would say to the credit of the public, they've added a much wider array of issues than we had thought of or were originally presented. Collaboration offered that we should partner with a very good organization, and I agree that from what's been said, the Y is an excellent organization, and certainly deserves the support of the community in my mind. There was a positive that the space would be acquired by the district at almost no cost to the district. But there were also concerns presented that with the collaboration meet the basic mission of the schools. Green space is limited. With the construction, limit any more additions. Traffic is already a problem, and this will not only increase the traffic, but extend the traffic throughout the day to a longer period. And suppose the YMCA is unable to sustain itself, then what would happen? But the community weighed in with a couple of more that I hadn't thought about and others hadn't brought up. They spoke that traffic is about roads and vehicles, but safety is about children. And there's a significant, you can manage traffic, but it's hard to manage safety with the children. Somebody brought up in the community, is it even legal to enter in a long-term relationship with a private organization? The YMCA will distract if not eliminate community ed as we know it now. And as was pointed out, there may be a way to be able to do a cooperation that could serve both organizations extremely well. But the dilemma was that fine and well-meaning people presented good reasons for both sides on this issue. It's not been an easy issue for me to resolve. But in the end, it seems to me that short-term gains will be realized, but the short-term gains seem to be a compromise or eliminate most of the long-term options that we need to be able to have available for later. So in my final analysis, concerned people of this district have presented to me a compelling argument that we should not continue with the collaboration of this opportunity.
Thanks, Noel.
I would just like to thank the great consideration we've taken a look at this with the Y leadership, thank their time, and also I am a previous longtime member of the YMCA in the city, so just wanted to comment on that.
Anybody else? Right from the beginning, this has been an unusual proposed collaboration because I think most successful collaboration starts with two individuals coming together, each of whom has really analyzed their own needs, and then they see an overlap of those needs and the possibility for working together to meet both of their needs. And this didn't come to us that way. This came, the Y figured out the kind of building it wanted to build. The Y decided that for its purposes, the best place to be was on the high school property. And then the Y came to us saying, this could be of benefit to you too. And so we've approached it with that frame of mind, is how might this be of benefit to us? Because I think the value of collaboration, I think, is
understood and appreciated very well by all of us on this board. So we really looked at this as, might there be something that would be of benefit to us? But we really need to weigh the merits of the proposal from the district standpoint, and so that's the approach that I have taken, is really looking at this from the district standpoint. I kind of started from the point of, if somebody dropped $10 million in our lap, what would we build? And I went through, the things that we've worked on over the years, facilities needs at the high school, and we had our consultants who worked on this with us through our workshops. And the needs that we have at the high school, the most pressing needs, are not the things that would be met by the Y. Could the Y meet some of our needs at the high school? Yes, no question. But it's the contrast between this kind of building and this sort of building project and what we did at Sibley, I think, is just really striking in my mind. At Sibley we had needs at the elementary level that had been building, and they were well understood needs. And we did a very planful, modest addition to that school, very cost effective, and we solved a myriad of problems at all of the elementary buildings with that one addition and some reorganization of which students go to which schools. It was very, very thoughtful, very cost effective, and again, met a host of needs that we were well aware of and had been working on solving for a long time. When I look at this Y proposal, I see that, the needs that we've been hearing about for years at the secondary level are the needs to better organize our administrative spaces and provide a secure entrance to the high school, and the special education needs to, rather than having those programs wherever we can fit them in, to better organize those. And this one health class that we would be able to move to the YMCA facility would allow us to remodel one classroom at the high school to better serve our special needs students. And I don't want to diminish the value of that, but it doesn't solve the whole host of problems that we were able to do when we did the Sibley addition. The FIED needs are, they're real, but I don't think they're pressing. They're not central to our educational mission. And so I just don't see that the benefits to the district are there. We don't have that kind of synergy that we had when we put together this project. And I think Mike makes a very good point, and we do need to bear that in mind, that when you collaborate with somebody, nobody gets everything that they want. And I think that's important for us to bear in mind. But I look at this, and I think we really are getting so little benefit, really, in terms of facilities for this. So I can't really wrap my head around that as being a benefit. Our high school land, the property that we have at the high school, is about half the size of the acreage that would be required if we were to go out and build a facility for the student population that we have right now. And to take any part of that land and give it up at this point, I think, is really unwise and would be short-sighted. I think Noel alluded to the potential for kind of long-term risk to the district if the Y fails. And this is, I appreciate an effort to look at the what-ifs in a positive way, and I think you've done a good job of articulating those. I do think we have to look very carefully at the negative what-ifs. If the Y cannot sustain membership, if the Y, we enter into an agreement where we have not all of the money in hand before there is groundbreaking, and we end up with a partially built facility, these are big, big risks to the district. And my greater fear is that we end up in a situation where we actually have to argue against our best interests for using the facility, because it is so important that the Y have access to that facility in order to maintain membership, so that they don't go under and we don't inherit a building we had never planned on building. So there are a lot of practical kind of facilities, curriculum, logistical, legal, kind of related reasons for me to reject this proposal. But at the end of the day, really, there is just this larger issue that has just kind of bothered me from day one. And that is that
we're going to have, if we did this, we would have the newest, shiniest, best wing of the high school would have a members-only sign on it. And it just seems really antithetical to what public schools are all about. And so I'm going to be voting no on this. And it's, again, this is not about whether the Y is a good organization, whether the Y should be in town. I have been so impressed with how the Y has conducted itself and done its business on this. But I don't think this is the right way for the district to be collaborating with a private entity. So we have Mike's motion. We have Ellen's second. Anything else anybody wants to add? And that was in the form of a resolution, so we can take a roll call vote, Danita.
Rosen?
Aye.
Maple?
No.
Iverson?
Aye.
Pritchard?
No.
Quinnell?
No.
Stratton?
No.
Nelson?
No. Thank you. I want to thank you all for a really good discussion. It was not a simple process getting to this point, and I really appreciate. I think part of the reason it was hard is because it's hard to disagree with people that you have such good feelings about and have so much respect for. So on we go. The next item on our agenda. Get through all the papers. Is a resolution regarding a Minnesota State High School League Foundation grant. And I'll just read it. Resolved that the School Board of Independent School District number 659 authorizes the Northfield High School administration to apply for a Minnesota State High School League Foundation grant to be used to fund those students unable to pay the activity fees to participate in Northfield High School athletic programs. And I just mentioned that the grant request is for $10,000. So is there a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved.
Moved by Julie. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jeff. Any discussion? All those, we have to do that by roll call, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Rosen?
Aye.
Maple?
Aye.
Iverson?
Aye.
Pritchard?
Aye.
Quinnell?
Aye.
Stratton?
Aye.
And Nelson?
Aye. Okay, on to the consent grouping, and I just remind the board that there are a number of items in the table file that were added to the consent grouping. Is there a motion, or is anything anybody wants to pull from the consent grouping? Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent grouping?
So moved.
Moved by Ellen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Noel. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent grouping, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Items for information. This week, all the buildings will be conducting safety drills, specifically stay put and duck and cover lockdown drills. We have to do 5 of those each year, so parents, if your children are coming home describing that, just understand that we are required to do that, and that is important for our kids to be comfortable with that procedure should we ever need it. Also, you have in your packet, Governor Pawlenty has proclaimed October 30th through November 6th Gifted and Talented Youth Week, and you have that official proclamation in your packet. Future meetings coming up, we have the 2 regular meetings in November, on Monday, November 8th and Monday, November 22nd. And just a reminder about the bus driver appreciation breakfast this coming Thursday, October 28th at Bridgewater, right? And Nancy, what time is that again?
8:20 to 9.
8:20 till 9 o'clock. Okay. Thank you very much. I ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Noel.
Jeff.
Moved by Jeff.
I'll second.
Seconded by Noel. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries and we are adjourned.